and we want to celebrate it by interviewing Dr. Hussain Al-shahristani about Ghadir and learn more about this very, very important part in Islamic history. So we are going to interview him, and let's get right in. So, hello, Doctor. Assalamu alaikum.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله سيد حسن.
شكرا.
عيد مبارك إن شاء الله. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية أمير المؤمنين وأولاده المعصومين.
Alhamdulillah. So today, as you know, we want to talk about Ghadir, and I have three main questions that I will ask you, and then you can answer them for me if very kindly. Thank you. So the first question is about the significance of Ghadir. So we know that, like Shia especially, have four main Eids, which are Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha or Eid al-Qurban, and Eid al-Jum'ah, and the fourth and one of the most important ones is Eid al-Ghadir. So can you tell us why it is so important, and like what does the timing of this Eid offer in the amount of significance it has?
Well, to understand and appreciate the significance of Eid al-Ghadir, it was on the 10th year after the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ to Medina, when he sent the word to all Muslims in Arabia at that time, from Yemen and other parts of the Arabian Peninsula, calling upon people to come that year for the Hajj to Mecca. And this was the first Hajj the Prophet performed after he left Mecca to Medina. And practically all the Muslims who could travel came to Mecca to see the Prophet and learn the ritual of the Hajj from the Prophet firsthand. And according to some historians, the total number of pilgrims that year with the Prophet were about 124,000 pilgrims in Mecca. So after the Prophet have made the Hajj, the Wuquf at Arafah, Munada, the Biha, the Sa'i, and the Tawaf and everything else, and taught the Muslims all the rituals of the Hajj, and they finished the Eid al-Adha, then they had to return to Medina. And as they were returning, the Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Prophet with wahi, with the revelation, and with the ayah saying, Ya ayyuha ar-Rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik, wa in lam taf'al fama ballaghta risalatahu, wallahu ya'simuka min an-nas, which would translate to, O Messenger of God, deliver what has been revealed to you from your Lord, and if you do it not, you have not delivered his message, and Allah will protect you from the people. Then the Prophet, after hearing this commandment of Allah Azza wa Jal, stopped at a place called Ghadir Khum. It was a pond of water called Ghadir Khum, almost halfway between Mecca and Medina. And he sent for the people who have been ahead of him to return, and waited for the people behind him to reach that location. And when they did, it was on the 18th of Dhul Hijjah, 4 days after he left Mecca, finishing the Eid rituals, and on his way to Medina. There he asked Salman al-Farisi, who was known by that time as Salman al-Muhammadi, to set up a minbar, a pulpit for him, to rise up a little bit so everybody could see him among the very large crowd. According to some narrators of the hadith, they said there were over 70,000 Muslims al-ghadir Khum, when the Prophet gathered them and addressed them. On the minbar, the Prophet ﷺ made a very long sermon reminding people of the pillars of the religion, from Tawheed to all the other rituals. And it took about 3 hours. It was on a very hot day, but the Prophet felt it was necessary for him on this last sermon, which is known as the Hajjat al-Wada, because that was, the Prophet knew this was his last Hajj, his last year. As a matter of fact, he died after that shortly. The Prophet told the people, كأني دعيت فأجبت وإني تارك فيكم الثقلين كتاب الله وعترتي أهل بيتي ما أن تمسكتم بهما لن تضلوا بعدي أبدا. I am about to be called away and I would have to answer the call, he told the Muslims. I am leaving with you two thaqalain, perhaps could be translated as weighty things: the Book of Allah, the Quran, and my family. If you hold tight to them, you will never go astray after me. So this was the basic message after the explaining all the pillars of Islam to them. He had to remind them that he's going to be passing away shortly. They should hold on to two things after him: the Quran, the Book of Allah, the Word of Allah, and the Ahl Bayt, the family of the Prophet. And he told them that they will never separate the Quran and the Ahl Bayt after him. So the Muslims should really hold on to these two weighty things after the Prophet to be on the right path. Then he asked Ali to stand on his right hand side and reminded the Muslims, basically telling them, have I not preached the message of Allah to you? They said, yes, you did. He said, haven't not I been a good example to you? They said, yes, you were. They said, am I not dearer to you than yourselves? They said, yes, you are. And he said, am I not dearer to you than your father and mother and so on? They said, yes, you are. Then he raised the hand of Imam Ali with his right hand, because he was standing on his right on the minbar, and said, من كنت مولاه فهذا علي مولاه اللهم والي من والاه وعادي من عاداه وانصر من نصره واخذل من خذله. O my Lord, Allah, whoever bear witness, he said, whoever I have been, Mawla, the word in Arabic will translate it as master. Whoever I have been his master, Ali is his master. O my Lord, be friend to whoever follows him, and wali man wala wa adi man ada, and be enemy to whoever is his enemy, and help who helps him, and be displeased with whoever does not follow him. This is the significance. You asked what is the significance of this occasion, because although the Muslims have heard from the Prophet on several occasions that how devout and pious Imam Ali has been throughout the years of early Islam, he has made him his brother in Medina when they went. He has told him, أنت مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى ألا أنه لا نبي بعدي. You are to me as Harun was to Musa, but there is no prophet after me. And they've heard a lot of praises from the Prophet to Imam Ali. But on this particular occasion, it was a direct commandment that whoever I have been his master after me, Ali is his master. And God will be pleased with whoever follows Ali and will be displeased with whoever does not follow him. This is really the significance of the Eid al-Ghadir. That's why we consider that wilayah or following of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam as an important pillar of Islam, because we have been commanded on the last sermon of Hajjat al-Wada at Ghadir Khum by the Prophet himself, when there were at least 70,000 Muslims hearing him clearly declaring that after him Imam Ali should be considered as their master.
Yes, thank you very much. Now it is very clear how significant this occasion was really in Islam. So the next question that comes up is that after this khutbah, or the 3-hour talk that the Prophet had, what was the reaction of the people around the Prophet, of the Sahaba, of his followers?
Well, the Sahaba very well understood the commandments, and when the Prophet with Imam Ali, holding to Imam Ali, came down from the minbar, he went and sat in a tent and asked people to come and express their acceptance of Imam Ali as their master, what we call bay'ah, to declare their allegiance to Imam Ali. As a matter of fact, the first people that came in were the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen, the wives of the Prophet, Aisha and all the other wives of the Prophet, and they declared allegiance to Amir al-Mu'mineen when the Prophet was witnessing it. Then the Sahaba, with their leaders like Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman, they all came in and declared their allegiance, and all the other Muslims came. As a matter of fact, it's narrated in the hadiths that Abu Bakr and Umar have told Ali ibn Abi Talib on that occasion in the tent, "Bakhin bika ibn Abi Talib," yani congratulations to you, O son of Ibn Abi Talib, the son of Abu Talib. الآن أصبحت مولاي ومولى كل مؤمن ومؤمنة. Now you are my master and the master of every faithful man and woman. And so did the other Sahaba. So it was well accepted. And the hadith of Ghadir Khum, the sermon of the Prophet and the declaration of the acceptance, was not narrated by Shia scholars or only by followers of Ahlul Bayt. As a matter of fact, in almost all the Sunni books, the Sihah and so on, the hadith is narrated through more than 100 sources. Yani 100 Sahabi, companion of the Prophet, on different occasions have narrated the hadith that we were witness at Ghadir Khum when the Prophet declared Imam Ali as Mawla kulli Muslimin wa Muslimah. And the Sahaba that have narrated that hadith include Ibn Abbas, Ibn Mas'ud, Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari, Zayd ibn al-Arqam. Aisha herself has narrated that hadith. And in the Sahih of Al-Sunnah, even Musnad Ahmad bin Hanbal have a very detailed hadith of the Prophet on that particular occasion. This has been what Muslims call hadith mutawatir. So many people have basically narrated that hadith from the Prophet, from all shades, not only from the followers of Imam Ali later on and the followers of Ahlul Bayt, but from all the Muslims. That hadith has been narrated, and there are very few hadiths that are so well sourced by different Sahaba as the hadith of Ghadir Khum.
Yes. So if it's so well sourced, and even like all the Sahaba came, and like most of them came and they were congratulating him and they said, "You are my master," and all of this. So why have today or after Ghadir Khum, why was this message interpreted differently by the different groups, and why aren't everyone the followers of Imam Ali and the Ahlul Bayt now?
You are right. The Muslims differed after the Prophet on the interpretation of the hadith, what the Prophet meant by Mawla, the word that was used by the Prophet, "Man kunt mawla, fahada aliyun mawla," to whom I have been the Mawla. Imam Ali is the Mawla. So some of them, basically the followers of Ahlul Bayt, interpreted that to mean the master and the leader and the guide in all matters, in all religious matters and in all worldly matters. And many of the Sahaba understood it that way. In one of the instances, when Imam Ali became the Caliph in Kufa, he was sitting in the mosque of Kufa. A number of companions of the Prophet came to the mosque, and a lot of people were sitting in the mosque, and they came to the mosque to greet Imam Ali, say Salamun Alaikum. So the group was led by Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Abu Ayyub al-Ansari is one of the greatest companions of the Prophet. He's the person whom, when the Prophet migrated from Mecca to Medina, and everybody was keen to have the Prophet to be his own guest at his own home, because the Prophet basically and the Muslims from Mecca were all refugees, and they wanted the Prophet to go to their homes. And the Prophet said, just leave he was riding a camel. He said, leave the camel knows where to go. And the camel went to the door of the house of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. And the Prophet came down and was the guest of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. This was the status of Abu Ayyub, a very great companion of the Prophet. So Abu Ayyub, with a number of Sahabas, all have been companions of the Prophet, enters the mosque of the Kufa and goes to Amir al-Mu'mineen and says, "Assalamu alayka ya Mawlana," and he puts his hand on his head. Now this was a non-greeting among the Muslims. The Persians would be greeting like that. They would be bending down to the king and putting their hands on their heads and so on. So the Arabs were not accustomed to this kind of a greeting. So Abu Ayyub comes in, he says, "Assalamu alaikum ya Mawlana." So Amir al-Mu'mineen just wanted to make the point. He asked Abu Ayyub, "Alastum Araba? Aren't you Arabs?" Basically meaning that the way you are greeting is not the way the Arabs greet. This is a different way of greeting. So Imam Ali wanted really the others to hear. So Imam Ali says, "Alastum Araba? Aren't you Arabs?" Abu Ayyub says, "Yes, we are. We are Arabs," and everybody knows Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Most of all, Imam Ali himself. I mean, Abu Ayyub is not a person that people in Medina and the Muslims don't know. So Abu Ayyub answers Imam Ali. He says, "Yes, we are, but we are greeting you as Allah have ordered us to greet you, as Mawlana." Just to remind everybody in the mosque that on the day of Ghadir Khum, the Prophet said, "Man kunt mawla, fahada aliyun mawla." So God has instructed us to, whenever we greet you, to greet you as Mawlana and not by any other title. And on other occasions also, when one man comes to the Prophet after this Ghadir, immediately, and he asks the Prophet, he says, "You have asked us to believe in one God, we did. You have asked us to believe in you as a prophet of God, we did. You ordered us to pray, we did. You ordered us to fast, we did. You ordered us zakat and hajj and everything else, we did. Now you are ordering us to follow Ali ibn Abi Talib after you. Is this your own opinion, or is it an order from God?" And the Prophet tells him, "It is an order from God. I will never say anything of my own unless I'm instructed by God. So Abu Ayyub at that particular occasion wanted to make sure that all these Muslims in Kufa now, many of whom who were not companions of the Prophet, have not seen the Prophet or hear them directly, Abu Ayyub wanted to make sure that they all realize that Imam Ali is the Mawla and he has been appointed by God. He has been ordered by God to address him as Mawla. Now, other Sahabas have had a different understanding or interpretation of the hadith. They said Mawlana means our master. Imam Ali is our master. We obey him, we respect him, we love the family of the Prophet and so on. But we don't understand that particular command to mean that Imam Ali should be the commander of the faithful, Amir al-Mu'mineen, directly after the Prophet. And the Muslims have elected Abu Bakr first, and then Umar, and then Uthman was chosen before the Muslim came to Imam Ali and insisted that he should be the caliph. And that's why the difference of how they interpret or understand the word Mawla, which was used by the Prophet on the day of Ghadir Khum.
So thank you very much for joining us today and discussing Ghadir and teaching us a lot about the different stuff that happened and the different points of views. Inshallah, you have a great Ghadir Khum, and thank you for having us.
Well, congratulations to you and all the young Muslims who are so keen to learn about their religion and the significance of these days that Allah Azza wa Jalla has made special days for the Muslims. And I wish you all very happy Eid al-Ghadir, and may Allah make us all obedient to His commands, followers of His Prophet and the family of the Prophet, and we should all accept Imam Ali, our Mawla, as we have been ordered by Allah and His Prophet.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Most welcome.
Ma'as salam.
Ma'as salam.